I have a interesting bunch of things to go into, so I'm just gonna start talking. I haven't talked to Brian for very long lately, and I wanted to just hang out with him for a minute. So we were chilling. He was showing me this new game that he's playing. He tells me that usually he's either playing a game or watching a show or, watching this thing, and I'm like, I understand it, and it's almost like I don't mean to sound funny, and I'm not trying to put anything down because to me, I do the opposite. I don't watch TV. I don't play games. And I played a video game with my son recently, so then when he wasn't here, I was trying to get better at it again because I started getting bad at it, and I played it for like 3 hours. So to me, I was like, oh man, I played something in 3 hours. I feel bad about it. And I really didn't, but for my own self, I was like, I can't believe I just had 3 hours go by. So anyway, like I do understand why people have their tendencies. So this goes all the way into, like, he started saying something, and I'm only using him for example. I love him, so I don't want anybody to feel like I'm trying to insult them. But how else can I talk about things that everybody does, except for for trying to help people? It's hard to go out and approach the world when the stuff that I'm trying to talk about or bring up as subjects are things that my family does. Like, I don't want to watch violence, take part in violence. The only way to get violence out of your life is to take yourself out of doing violence and watching violence and spreading violence and condoning it. If you weren't the customer for a show, a regular watcher for a show that was about violence, and those thoughts are being spread every time you watch them into you and other people watching them. Yes, it's your choice, but if you start making the choices of not being interested in seeing the violence and the horror and the death and the murder, whether it's real or it's fake, whether it was real before, it's not happening right now. So either it's a fake scripted thing or it's a real thing. It's not something that you would want on your mind, is it? I mean, there's nothing fascinating about killing. So if you're not going to go do it, you wouldn't really want to spend your time watching it or studying it. You're not going to solve it. You can't win a war by fighting. You win a war by being so much of a good example that people start learning how to be peaceful. That's where peace comes from. Peace doesn't come from strict and dominating reactive forces. It doesn't have from strike first before they strike, or let them strike and you finish the fight. It's not that. Those are what we taught each other in our own self-defense ways as we grew up, learning how to be more we're not self-dependent. Most people aren't. I mean, I would say self-dependent, but I don't know many people who really think for themselves and go out in the world and live that way and say, I don't need anything. And I really don't need anything. I take part in life because I have a few people that I still want to be in touch with. I want to affect the world. So how can I affect the world and show people what we really are beyond the words without being part of the world? So I don't really have much to go into, but I just want to say that it's not that, of course I get, people that were in the war. You have to realize that our government sets things up. They cover up stories. If something happens to you somewhere, it's not always, an exercise or something went wrong in this situation or something happened here. They'll make up something when, you do something for them and it backfires, or you get injured in the process of doing something that you shouldn't be doing. And, secret things, something happens during a secret thing. They don't say he died in a secret operation. They say, during a exercise, he was fatally injured. It's just weird stuff that everyone knows happens, and we just let it go on. So we just let ourselves play part in other people's games, and you just have to take control of yourself and say, I'm not willing to be anybody's puppet or anybody's employee or anybody's whatever, because I don't need your money and I don't need your system. It's not doing anything for me, and I don't need to be part of it to be a good person. In fact, I need to teach people how to be part of loving each other so they could even worry about a system. At that point, you can't have a system where you don't care about each other. Then it's just a money system, and that means nothing. And we can see that now in the everyday world. But I have nothing against what people are doing with their time, but I just want you and everybody who would be hearing this to see that if you spend your time doing things that are just fascinating your mind or keeping you entertained, you're not really paying attention to the world around you and what's happening. Pay attention to your body. You are the living source of you. So if you start paying attention to that part of you, you'll see a different part of life very shortly, especially if you haven't been doing it at all. Pay attention to the living part of you. Think, what's the living part of me want to do right now? Do I want to feel this way? Do I want to be happy? Do I want to watch this and think about this? Like, ask yourself a few questions about what you're doing once in a while. And it'll change the way you look at your life. So, peace.